Hi friends, this video is about IT security, identity access management. So as it is, identity access management is one of the core parts of IT security. Any organization which aims at achieving the best of security standards and practices, it's pretty critical that they accustom their identity platform up to the mark so that their infrastructure is as safe as they would want it to be. So we would this video is going to be a brief outline on what exactly is identity access management and the solutions it has to offer. I would also give a comparison between what we have today and what it was previously so that we can better understand how identity and access management as a solution is evolving on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, let's begin with that. So yes, as I was mentioning, identity access management is one of the core parts of IT security. We do have two other components of IT security, which are infrastructure security and network security. So just to give you a brief, just to because if the audience of this video is not much from an IT background or someone who might need an introduction on what IT security is all about. So IT security is the current day security standards that any IT dependent company or an organization is bound to have. So, of when we talk about IT security, there are the subject is a very broader context. So it revolves around pretty much a lot of global standards, global practices, and a number of solutions that are available in the market today. So there are multiple products that you might have heard in your day-to-day part of your regular work life or your regular day-to-day life. In fact, I mean, IT security is no longer just a stuff that's constrained to the larger organizations. It's something which is pretty much influential to every common man today. So be it a bank or a marketing industry or a shop, even if you work from a shop to even if you are a president of United States, it's pretty much relevant to everybody. So that's where IT security comes into play today. So now, talking about each of these components, infrastructure security. By infrastructure security, I mean the IT part of any infrastructure, like servers, from any individual computer who is connected to your network, to the servers, to the domain controllers, to the platforms that you are managing. Pretty much all the infrastructure components of your organization, anything that deals with your your organization's IT platform. So I would tag them under infrastructure security, making sure that those servers, those computers, those devices, it might be a mobile device that is joined by an end user or whoever it is. It's about securing those devices and infrastructure. So now the next part is I would get back to identity access management a little later. But before that, which is of course is the core objective of our discussion. So before that, network security. Network security is about securing your network, like your firewalls, your connectivity through cloud or within the organization. If there is an on-premises network level integration that's required, that's one. About that, it could be your switches, it could be your routers, it could be your firewall, as I said, it could be your any network specific device or any network specific integration or any wired or wireless communication that involves your organization. So it's about making sure that your data is secured in your organization, within your organization, and when it is exposed, be it through internet or be it to a vendor whom you deal with, a third party vendor who may not necessarily be in your organization. He might be a third party vendor who no longer who never actually has a IT level connect physically or virtually. So any such platform which is purely internet based, so pretty much it covers every single network specific security. So that's about network security. And thirdly, the identity access management, which is the subject of our discussion today. So that is about identity, as the name implies. So identity access management, as the name implies, is the end-to-end management of identities. It could be users, it could be their computers, it could be their mobile devices, it could be it could be an application that you are integrating with your platform. Like for example, if there is Office 365, which we use for mailing access, for access to creating presentations like this, and any Word document or an Excel, whatever that you might be consuming. So all such application integrations and their respective access management. So any user, if he is being onboarded to an organization, ever since him joining the organization to his last working day, every single access requirements that he or she might be needed, every single devices or applications or files or data that he or she would be accessing and managing, and ensuring that such access management is done in an effective way. And any level of elevated access or any admin level privileges that any individual might need, or any administrative tasks that a user might need to perform on a day-to-day basis, or in a random manner, or once in a week or once in a month. So pretty much everything, end-to-end access management of a user or his devices and everything would be done through the identity access management. So this revolves around pretty much every single access that a user might have to his company on a day-to-day basis. So that's kind of a nutshell of what it is. So there are multiple components of identity access management, which is onboarding, like be it a user or a computer or a application, you onboard it to your infrastructure. Like you allow them to access your infrastructure, you create a account for them, you set up a password, or you set up a MFA, or you set up a single sign on and whatnot. So pretty much every single onboarding capabilities within the organization. And it could not necessarily within the organization, given the fact that today we are cloud evolved. Be it a SaaS based application that a user might need access to, you onboard the user to a SaaS based application. That also is an onboarding exercise. So same way, offboarding, decommissioning a user, when we let go a user from the organization, when we deprecate his access, when we remove his ability to access the infrastructure, get the data, get access to his emails that he was using as an employee, or if it is a computer account or a device, deboarding, offboarding it from the infrastructure, making sure that the IPs that are assigned to that device is no longer relevant to it, ensuring that any data that's lying on that device or computer is cleaned up, and any end-to-end application integration that is being done are off-boarded in an effective way, such that any security violations and stuff like that are no longer happening with such user or device or an application. Is all about offboarding. Integration is more specific to applications, because applications get integrated to your infrastructure. Like for instance, if there is an application that is a third party, that is a cloud hosted application, you onboard it to your infrastructure so that your users will have the capability of consuming its services. So it could be on-prem, or it could be cloud, it could be a homegrown application if it is a purely custom-built application for a company. If you have onboarded and if you have built an application all from scratch for your business requirements, and if you are looking to integrate it with your identity so platform so that your users could access it, so that your customers could use it for their business transactions or whatnot. So pretty much everything comes under integrations. So that's about it. And migrations is more a contemporary term, where it is more of between cloud and on premises. Like wherever I use on premises here, please understand I'm referring to the physical infrastructure. And for those folks who are not much into IT, and those who are getting used to IT terms, terminologies, and practices, so on-prem is the on-prem ONPREM is the physical infrastructure, and the not even, we can't even term it as only physical. It's within the organization. Physically, yeah, physical is the right way of putting it across. So within the organization, so that's about the on-prem instance. So a migration as a terminology means migrating the users or devices or applications from on-premises to cloud and vice versa. Why do you do it? Yes, that's a good use case. For example, if a user who is on your network, within your infrastructure, wants to have access to an application that is based on cloud, there are two ways you achieve it. One, you integrate the application onto your on-premises instance, which typically is possible but involves few federation services level of integrations. Or the alternative way, and more common these days, is migrating your users to a hybrid based system wherein you would have an on-premises active directory or a solution of sorts, and you would also have a cloud-based or a hybrid platform like an Azure AD or a AWS IAM or something like Okta, where you would migrate the users from your on-premises to that cloud-based instance, so that users can effectively consume the solutions that are integrated to that cloud-based solution. So that's about it. So that's the migration part. So we would get deeper into each of these solutioning and each of these features that are available with IAM, but that's on a later time. Now, security configurations. So pretty much all the security configurations that needs to be done within IAM. Like for example, if you are setting up a second factor authentication for accessing your emails, or if a end user needs to access, wouldn't want to enter the password each time he logs into an application, so he gets configured with stuffs like single sign-on, SSO, and multi-factor authentication. So these are few examples of security configurations. There are way more security configurations and solutions that are available. So just to give you a briefing on what exactly we mean by security configurations is these identity security settings and configurations that you could do in an IAM product. And then audits. So any organization would have an would expect would need to have a, well defined audit mechanism to validate what their users are doing, to identify how long a computer is being used, what exactly is being done on each device, if there are any vulnerability, if there are any threats, if there are any process violations, or if there are any access violations that are being done, or if there is any, if any non-authoritative users are provided with admin access. So pretty much end-to-end access management and audit component of it, to make sure that to make sure that there are no discrepancies. And governance, lastly, but pretty much it covers all the other components of the identity access management. It's about governing your identities. It's about making sure that there is a synchronized workflow between each of your IAM products. Like you might have an on-premises product, you might have a cloud-based product, you might have a standalone directory that never actually communicates with the cloud-based solution. Anything of these dynamics, it's about the IGA, identity governance and administration, is the core solutioning within IAM that typically deals with the governance of overall identity within the organization. So that's about it. Now let's go deeper into each of the IAM trends and solutions that we have as on today. Basic IAM trends and solutions, the ones that we currently have as part of our uh, current day, legacy and current day trends. So, uh, yeah. To begin with, these are the legacy practices that that's being done within IAM. So basically, any infrastructure, as I was explaining, is expected to have an identity access management. Not today, not yesterday. Ever since IT became a thing, right? Like ever since there is a computer in the organization, people wanted to make sure that they manage who's logging in, who is not, who is supposed to do what, and so on. So the IAM trends and solutions, the legacy practices is the first is the initial component that I have included. So this is to give you a briefing on how it looked like in the past. And mind you, few organizations still actually are little legacy. So you might observe that few are still at that stage. So few legacy practices around identity access management are usually on-prem identity management. So back in days, like by legacy, I mean not very old, anywhere between when the computer was first brought into picture till what do you call it, pre-COVID era for Canadian standards, because I have observed that most Canadian companies evolved after COVID. Like the customer the contemporary IAM practices and current day trends were kind of forced upon few conventional or companies that weren't ready to adapt to the modern trends. Like they had to catch up on the current day trends after COVID kicked in. But for non-Canadian companies, for any non-Canadian audience who might be listening to this video, so that's more focused. You could see it anywhere between 2000, for American standards. Like these legacy practices are more relevant between 2005 to 2012ish. So after 2012 2015 time frame, that's when I took up architecture. I took up the roles of an architect and so on. So between 2005 to 2015, things changed from these legacy practices. Again, that varies between company to company. So I did see that most American companies kind of transitioned by 2015 2018 time frame. Again, there are still few American companies as well, but again, yeah, comparatively, I do see that the Canadian culture towards the IT trends have been relatively slower than what I have observed with the American large scale companies. Again, given the fact that they are larger in scale and their footprint is across the globe in most cases, so that does make a large scale difference. So now, talking about these legacy practices, so usually the past trends used to be on-prem identity management. Like the identities of an organization used to be pretty much physical. There wouldn't be a cloud. There wouldn't be a much of a cloud-based exposure to their identities. And even if there are few cloud-based applications, even if there are few cloud-based applications like Office 365, or if the companies are using certain cloud-based applications like Workday or ADP for their HR level requirements, they would all be either standalone, or the identities would be maintained separately on that application level, or there would be a separate integration between that application and the on-premises system using stuffs like Azure Active Directory, sorry, Active Directory Federation Services, not Azure Active Directory. That is something that we discuss in the next slide. Something like Active Directory Federation Services. So Federation Services is is an on-prem solution that would help integration of cloud-based or on-premises applications with the Active Directory, so that the users who are hosted on the AD would be having an ability to access those applications. So pretty much the biggest usage of federation services is enabling single sign-on, and making sure that users wouldn't have to enter their passwords each time they access each application, or a cloud-based solution like Office 365. So that's one of the key solutions that came with ADFS. Of course, ADF is in itself is a very broad subject. So as a product and as a solution, that the abilities that were available with ADFS was way better. But again, that's still I would tag it as legacy, given the fact that today we have way more evolved capabilities within SSO, and stuffs like MFA weren't much common those days. Like multi-factor authentication, like we did not get to see multiple scenarios where you would be asked to enter your password and then you pass it on, and then it would ask you to enter your biometric or a code that's being sent to your phone. Those things were not very common back in days. So so this I would say is a pre-COVID era for Canadian standards, as I said, or what do you call it, pre 2015 or 2012, based on what your company was looking like back then. So that's about it. And so there were very minimal out of box capabilities that these IAM solutions had to offer back in days. Like, by out of box capabilities, I mean the solutions that were available with the product was very minimal. Like, could not integrate with a third party application at ease. They had to set up some REST API developments. They had to do some level of scripting, some level of development capabilities to make sure that they are able to get to that integration or consume those applications or secure your infrastructure, even for stuff like role based access management, or making sure that the identities communicate between each other. Like, for example, back in days, we could have seen platforms like AS400, mainframe, Active Directory, Linux LDAP, what do you call it? So pretty much all these uh, platforms where users used to log in were all standalone. They were not talking to each other effectively, like, or there were never an integration between these products. Like, users used to be created on Active Directory, then they would be created on Linux LDAP, then they would be manually created on mainframe, then they would be manually created on AS400 for their salary and whatnot. Then they would be created manually on platforms like SAP or Oracle or Hyperion, and stuffs of that kind. So there would be individual directories for each larger application, and there used to be individual administrative mechanism for each of these platforms separately. They used to be standalone. So that was the legacy way of living back in days. Then the governance and security administration involved quite some developments and customization, as we could understand. Like, because these are all the standalone products, because these are all standalone systems, they did not have an effective way of integrating with each other. So any user who's being managed in Active Directory would not necessarily, if he is getting deprovisioned, for instance, if he is leaving the organization, an administrator, a user access control administrator, would ideally have to disable his account or deprovision him on AD and AD groups, and then will have to manually perform the same on stuffs like mainframe, AS400, and so on. So that's how the administration was back in days. For example, if a user is terminated today, and if he is disabled on AD, and if the administrator missed out to disable his AS400 profile, chances are he could be credited with the salary the next month while he's still not in the organization in the first place. So those are the administrative efforts and security level risks that came along with in those days. Uh, Again, there were times when this was not a big thing, and there were times when this was managed in a more manual way. There used to be access management teams who were like larger in number to administer the user profiles and so on. So that's kind of what it was some years ago. And understandably, in smaller organization, we could still see this. Say we could still see that that's the way even today. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's evolving. So this is where it's evolving to. so the contemporary and current day practices. So this is the ultimate level of identity practices that we have as on today. So I stress upon the point as on today because I do see this evolving leaps and bounds in the near future. So this is as on today. So as you could see today, we would be having our identities across platforms, like not only on premises, like we would see it on premises, we would see it on cloud, purely on cloud, like not only in the physical infrastructure of the organization, you would also see it on the cloud. You would also see it in a hybrid way where it would be managed both on premises and and cloud, and it would be synchronized. There would be a synchronization between the on-premises identities and the cloud-based identities. One of the systems would be seen as a primary source of truth, and any changes made to that system would flow across to all other identity systems. Pretty much every large identity directory in the organization is kind of integrated these days, or they are getting integrated. If the migrations are still in progress, such identity platforms are getting integrated. Like any standalone any standalone platforms are either being let go, or pretty much all the products today are themselves coming up with options to integrate with the standard IAM identity solutions, like AWS IAM. Uh, when we see AD Azure, when we see on-premises Active Directory and on-premises Linux LDAP as the two core infrastructure source of truth, which is common in most organizations even today. If we see it in that way, pretty much all the cloud-based solutions today are well evolved to integrate with Azure AD and other cloud-based solutions to make sure that, like AWS IAM, to make sure that they are effectively consumed and they act as a single source of truth, so that there are not much what do you call it, user access management issues within the organization. So that's what we mean by a hybrid IAM, identity management. So now, um, so we do have a well matured SSO capabilities today, and MFA, we have a broad number of MFA options today. Like if we integrate our applications, or if we decide to use any IAM product that we see today, we can pretty much see that SSO is available handy. All the any application that you integrate with, users wouldn't necessarily have to enter the passwords, like what it was way long, I mean years ago, or a decade ago at least. And today we see a well evolved IAM solutioning as far the SSO is concerned. And of course MFA, we have a lot of MFA options, as we were talking about a little earlier. Like we have biometrics, we have the OTP that's being sent to our phones, we have an email based OTP, we have options for receiving calls, we have option for receiving our SMS to see the code and enter it and whatnot. Stuffs like push notifications are getting more prominent these days. And it varies from product to product. There are multiple MFA solutions that each product has to offer. Of course, biometric is a standalone, I mean is kind of the best in class solution that we could see today. So that's about MFA. By MFA we mean multi-factor authentication. So multi-factor, so it's not only the password that the users rely on. So in fact, stuffs have gone to a level of passwordless authentication. So people would no longer have to remember their passwords. People would no longer be asked to enter their passwords. So there are options to bypass your password based on mobile push notification, mobile code, or a mobile based app that would help get the code and so on. Like there are quite a lot of solutions that we have with MFA today, which was not the case in the past generation also. Next is the application integration. So yeah, that's something which has transformed leaps and bounds. So we can easily integrate pretty much all the SaaS based applications today, because all our core directories are integrated. We can easily identify the on-prem or the cloud-based instance of our directory that could best consume the cloud-based SaaS products, or we can also effectively integrate the on-premises homegrown such custom-built applications can easily be integrated with the on-premises infrastructure, which of course is something that was being done even in the past generations. So that would be done at ease even today. So and we do have a broad out of box a very broad out of the box capabilities today, and the ease of administration is also a very key component of what today's IAM solutions has to offer. Like for example, like we can easily consume do integrations with applications, configure MFAs, set up single sign-on, enable machine-to-machine integrations, enable a passwordless single sign-on, enable role-based access control, do stuffs like custom authorization policies, develop security policies and practices that would make sure that any audit level discrepancies or any security level discrepancies are addressed, and you easily set up integrations between log management tools like SIEM tools for like QRadar and stuff like that, to make sure that any threats and any day-to-day access violations are being reported on a timely and relevant manner, so that it can be managed at ease. And and overall the governance of identity therefore has gotten way easier. So yeah, like these are kind of the standard solutions that we have, standard current day trends that we see with IAM. But again, this is just limited to, and this is just an overview of what we have today. Like today's IAM world has gotten so deep, and solutioning with each of these products have become way easier. So of course, few industry standard products, as we were talking about all this while: Azure Active Directory, AWS IAM, Okta, SailPoint, IBM ISAM. I just listed a few. I mean, there are a lot of those like RSA Secure ID, Ping Federate, Ping Identity they call it in a more broader way. There are Oracle. There is Oracle IAM. So there is ForgeRock, which is kind of being consumed with most customers these days. So there are so many IAM products today, and there are so many industry standard security practices and standards that define which of these products would best suit each infrastructure. It would vary from a company to company and organization to organization. So it's about there are a lot of solutions to identify which best suits the infrastructure. So each organization buys these products and implement them based on their infrastructure requirements and their long-term business requirements. So yeah, that's kind of what it is about. This is the nutshell of what IAM is looking like as on today. So we would get more deeper as we get to discuss more on this subject. So that's it for today. Thank you.